Welcome to our first gathering of the Earth Nouveau in January 2025. Has anyone actually written down with their hands 2025?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
did you also feel that it feels completely different?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
I
like,
did.
I'm loving this 2025. I'm loving this. I didn't like
Yeah.
24 writing it. But as soon as for the first time when I did my notes and I wrote that, I'm like, oh, that flows.
Mm.
Amazing, isn't it? So
Yeah, it is. And it also adds to a 9, which is the number of completion.
number of completion.
Yeah.
What's your house numbers, by the way?
Which is probably why when I write it, because I noticed it that I was writing the 0 very small inside the first 2. You know, the 2 and then the 0 very small inside that wrinkle, and then the 225.
Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. I just the 5 is just I want to do this with the 5 at the end, you know. So yeah, thanks for mentioning the number 9, obviously completion, you know, and let's look out for that when we do our birth numbers and things like that. I've got a 9, I've got a 3 plus 9 in my birth number, which makes it 12.
Yes.
I've got my house number is a 3 and a 6. 3 plus.
Right.
So it's quite funny. Let me get Jen in here.
Mine ends with a 9, my house number,
Right.
but it adds up to 6. So
Okay, well, you know, 3, 6, 9, it's all, you know, part of all those amazing cosmic numbers. So of course it's January and we all know, you know, it's not the real start of the year, but we're just playing with the artificial matrix because we can, and
Yeah.
we're supposed to be out creating it, so we're infiltrating into it. And intention and imagination and goal setting is not really what we're doing, but just making, you know, sort of what is it that we want to create, or what is it that we need to create, because very often it's not what we want but what we need. And then of course keeping that energy really nicely open, just going with the energy. What kind of energy would be useful for me to generate within the next couple of days, weeks, months, years, even, that really allow me to step into that greater potential of why am I really here, that kind of thing. And I think we're all getting to that stage where we are having certain glimpses along those lines, you know, beyond the karmic resolution journey and path, where we can say, okay, so, you know, everything else until now has been prepped. Now, what is there that we haven't considered yet? And that really gets us excited and that gets us inspired, that kind of thing. And of course, we all know as well, within that space of uncertainty and within that space of flux and chaos that we are experiencing in our field, in the collective, the best way of really putting forward new intentions, creating with our future selves, creating something new in this present moment, the best ways is really to work with our imagination, right? Because that's key, because we're all here really to start creating something new. And there's brilliant ways of going back into the past to get some clues, because, you know, there is this repetitive circle and everything, but there is, and I think I speak for all of us here, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is this knowingness that something new is supposed to be coming forward, right? And it might not be new in the divine universal sort of concept, because, you know, everything is out, but it's an out creation. And it's certainly something that we have not necessarily a concept for at this moment in time. So dreams, imagination, synchronicities, all of this, and we have talked about all of that before, But now let's look at that in a sort of a different light. And also what comes into this whole thing is obviously the journey to trust the self. And knowing that that's what we inherently are doing anyway. But how can we bring that more into our consciousness? So that's pretty much the setting. And now see what we can create with that kind of energy, that foresight energy that Tanya so beautifully just mentioned before we came on and recorded.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the way that, the dreams, the dreaming space when we sleep, but also, what we're dreaming about, the bubble of reality that we're casting into the future, how we can look ahead and, well, prepare ourselves for the new things that are coming. And sometimes you can't prepare yourself because you don't really know how to prepare yourself for something that you don't know or don't understand. But I think continued maintenance of of our own energy fields gives us better opportunity to ground and seed those future projects and ideas. And sometimes we don't know what it's going to look like, really, but we know how we want to feel. So I like this idea of casting these emotions into our bubble of reality, into the future, and seeing the joy, seeing the peace and the harmony and that unity that we're moving to, and the way that Earth is raising her vibrational frequency, and humanity sort of getting pushed along with it, kicking and screaming sometimes, allowing sort of like that openness where you don't have to say, oh, it's going to look exactly like this, because then when it doesn't, there's that room for disappointment or discontent. So instead saying, well, how do I want to feel? And allowing that to ripple forward into your timeline, into your time stream, into your time sphere, bringing forth the past, remembering all those parts of us and coming forward in more of like a unified state, more of a oneness within, I think is what I've been dreaming about.
So when you say dreaming about, are you literally dreaming? Do you have quite vivid dreams around that too? Or is this more like you saying working with your intention and intuition?
I mean, both.
Both.
I've been dreaming. I think I get a lot of messages in dream time. So, I've been reading Voyagers 2, which has been really interesting because it talks about sort of, the destruction, not the destruction, but the blowing up, the blowing up of the grids in the higher harmonic Earth, which was Terra, and the way that it sort of like catapulted the seeded DNA down into a lower frequency. And so like as humans, as beings on this planet, we've been trying to raise frequency to reassemble the DNA strand so we can move up to that higher frequency. It's been sort of an interesting like review with a lot of interesting revelations as well of what has gone on in Earth's past, but is continuing also to go on now. So, for me, understanding where the limitations are in the DNA code and how to heal that, how to heal the layered fields of energy, within myself, but also that gives me insight into, what's going on with the people that I work with. So, dreaming about that reassembly, right? It's like we've been in a space of deconstruction that has been limited in a way. And it feels like this year there's more room for reimagining and, you know, dreaming about how to sort of reconstruct in a new way that's going to benefit. I don't know, it's kind of vague, but that's what I've been thinking about
And I love
dreaming
what,
about.
because, you know, that vagueness that some people would say, okay, well, that's too mystical for me, that's too out there or something. And that's actually not at all what we are talking about. When we talk about intention, imagination, you know, following that internal trust process is a very, very embodied spirituality. It's the embodiment of spirituality. And you know me, guys, I mean, I'm not big on the word spirituality anyway, but it's spiritual embodiment. It's really the embodiment. It's really imagining, because lots of those teachings of our biology, of our technology, of our biology have not been acknowledged yet. So when you start doing this kind of embodiment that we are talking about, it almost feels like an imagination to start off with. Certainly a visualization, you know, until it really comes into our field more and more. And let me just mention, I've done some work with Isa on that. And she is very, very spot on when it comes to that, because she uses all those biological spaces and places in our bodies, you know, and brings them together as she decodes this information from the ancient mystery schools, from Egypt, from the Mayans, the Toltecs, and everything. And she'll come on. I've asked her to come on, and I'd like her to together we're gonna sort of explore that enigma a little bit, what's always been an enigma for me, of heart expansion beyond the heart just grounding, not just, but grounding us into this physical reality. I want to really get a better understanding for everyone how we can expand through the heart into our multidimensional selves in a very, very grounded way, using, you know, not just the chakra system, but using everything that we have, the glands, the meridians, all of that, because this is really what it's coming down to, as far as I'm concerned. Using our physicality, using our biology as the tool, as the vehicle to travel. And you mentioned foresight, and you said something, you said, in this particular era of time, there's so much that we don't know, there's so much that we don't understand yet, and things like that. So how can we have this foresight, you know, when there's so many blind spots, right? And in my last conversation I had with Isa, she just mentioned a blind spot behind the eyes to be used for time travel. This is the blind spot behind the eyes, which is the, you know, which links the nerve, the optic nerve into the retina. And it's called, I've written it down because, you know, guys know me, scotoma. Yeah. So that's enough from the biological side. But what really struck me was the word blind spot. There's a blind spot behind the eye that allows us to time travel. Now, time travel at this moment in time is still sort of imaginative, right? It's still intuitive. It's still trusting your own and inner process. But there you have the word blind spot that is usually associated to lack of awareness, right? Lack of awareness. Blind, I can't see. And then we're using literally that part, or one part of this technology that we have, for particularly that, to gain some foresight through the blind spot, right? And that just made me excited again, because I love the play of words and everything. It's like, where are we limiting ourselves by wanting to see everything? And what blind spots have we identified as blind spots that, in fact, if we look a bit deeper into it, might be spots for foresights? So let me ask that question. What blind spots, what are blind spots for you? Let's start simply. What are blind spots?
Well, I think about, like, when I hear blind spot, like, I think about driving in my car, right? And looking over my shoulder to see what you can't see from the mirrors, from the rearview mirror, from your side mirrors, you know, that space that's in between that the mirror catches and your eyes catch by just looking like this, right? You have to look like that to see here. So it's almost like this back right, back left. And when I think about looking back or looking behind my eyes, right? I mean, it's hard to say what's in your blind spot because you don't know, because you're blind to it. So
but what sort of feeling? Yeah, exactly. Thanks for that. So what sort of feeling comes up when we talk about blind spots? It's like, oh, confusion. I don't get the whole picture. There is a lack. It's associated with lack, right?
or unknowingness.
Unknowingness, lack, uncertainty, and then the fear pops in because we have no control over the things that we can't see, that we are uncertain about. And I'm talking about not necessarily us here in the group, I'm talking about the collective from a very global perspective, right?
Well, and when you look at the collective, I mean, there's a lot of blind spots because you have this global narrative agenda that doesn't want people to see, doesn't want people to wake up, right? Wants people to keep running on the hamster wheel so that energy can be used and harvested and people can maintain a lower frequency.
Exactly. And that's a choice people make. They allow that to be the limitation for them. Now, blind spots from that perspective, as we're playing with the word, we would associate it to blind, being blind people. But what do we know about blind people? Yes, they might not be seeing.
All of the other senses are amplified.
Exactly.
And
so
that sixth sense.
Exactly, which leads us back to imagination and intuition, right? So how can we embrace our blind spots from that kind of perspective? We know what the artificial side says, but now let's say, okay, let's outcreate that. Let's infiltrate into all those blind spots, first identify them with ourselves, see what kind of feeling comes up when we talk about that blind spot. And then how can we reframe it, outcreate it? And as you just said, Tanya, what senses can be enhanced? The sixth sense is intuition, as far as I'm concerned. And then what is all like, wow, because this is like you throw this in and all of a sudden like you got all these tentacles going everywhere. No, we can't do this. Blind spot, we don't want a blind spot. Well, yes, we do want a blind spot, because this is where the exploration starts, because frankly, the other stuff is getting boring, right?
It's almost like shining the light into that darkness. Right, shining the light into the darkness so things that you can't see can be illuminated.
Yeah.
And with more tangible information, then your intuition can go to the next level. Right, like you can intuit what you're blind about using your intuition about where you need to shine light in your life, right? Whether it be habits or routines, right? your just like day-to-day daily practice, whether it's about like, just think about setting like intentions for, this next year, which a lot of people are doing right now, whether they're creating vision boards or, just setting intentions about what they want to see in life, right? But what are those things that you're missing? It's like, okay, I set intentions about daily practice, about diet, about exercise, about like what's going on in the physical, but also, now take it to a deeper level about what's going on in your DNA code, what's going on in your expanded awareness, what's going on in your energy field awareness, right? How are all of those layers of your aura working together? Are they working together, or are they, separate, working in different spheres of awareness? How can you bring all of those things together to give yourself like a wider, brighter awareness of what's going on around you in your own personal energy field, but then how is that working with the collective energy, whether it be in your city, whether it be in your state, your town, your immediate area. Like, what are you claiming guardianship over that you can work on a deeper level with the land? Like, what is your what is your bubble of influence, right? You talk about the heart being that influential energy. When you look at like heart math and you're measuring that field of influence that your heart has, right? It can go very wide. So when we're talking about opening and awakening to that heart portal, right? The love and the unity. I mean, it always is going to start here. It has to start here. If it's not here, then you can't take it outward.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot, and also what we're trying to probably, or what I'm trying to say here as well, is to change perception about the significance of seeing. Because there's so much that we see that's actually not worth looking at. And then there's so much that we don't see that has true intrinsic value to it, to be recovered, to be discovered, to be uncovered. And I suppose let's go back to the blind spots and see if we can go a little bit deeper into that. Jennifer, Mary, if you want to throw in, how do you feel when we talk about those blind spots being actually huge contributors to us?
It's interesting, I think, when you brought it up, Martina, just the term. I was, thinking, where did the term come from? Who named this as a blind spot? Who said it was a blind spot? And what is it? I suppose on a level, it's kind of, for me, it's, well, what you can't see with your eyes is considered to be a blind spot. There's something that you can't see. Like when Tanya was talking about driving the car and you can't see at a certain angle to the rear of that. But it's also, applied to bigger kind of concepts of understanding than that as well, something that we can't see in our understanding. But I don't know, because I just think that the blind spot isn't actually a blind spot at all. I think it's actually where our intuition is. And it was regarded as a blind spot because our intuition isn't accepted easily, because it's very hard to prove intuition. You can prove what you see in front of you with your eyes, but how do you prove what you're intuiting? How can you talk about that? How can you prove that? That can be dismissed. So because that can be dismissed, it's harder to sort of hold on to that and put it out there. We might know it ourselves, but it's harder to put it out there as a kind of a fact sort of thing. So I think that for me, that's where I go when I hear the term blind spot. You have a blind spot about something. And it is a term that we use, all right, a good bit, but I just think that it doesn't really exist. I don't think that we do. I think that it's just because we haven't gone into the intuition that we think, we can't, like as you said, if somebody is actually blind, how do they manage? They can see, they can see without using their eyes. So it's something to do with that for me. It's connected to something to do with sight in the eyes and the intuition. And I think that place that you talked about at the back of the eye, where you can time travel, I think that's just absolutely fascinating. I was watching a film with my grandchildren over Christmas, Back to the Future 1 and 2, I think we watched, and it was it was made in the 90s sometime, and it was looking at 2015 and what we would be like then and how we would travel into the future and travel back and forward in time. And it was really interesting to watch it, in 2024 because we had passed 2015. And I found that just an interesting concept just for myself because they were using these cars, that they could high power up and they could travel and break the time barrier and go forward and backwards in time and all of that. And yet I think we are so much further on than that now, even though we haven't the cars that we can say we can power up the cars and all of that. But that was only symbolic anyway of what actually the body can do. But we are, I think, so much further on than that. And it was, just interesting to see that and to see back then how we kind of projected that. So what would we do now if we projected it on 20 years? What would we see ourselves doing? Maybe not a whole lot different, but maybe that we will be just more aware of what we can do and what we have been doing all along that we haven't realized, like the blind spot again. Do you know that there's an awful lot that we're doing? We don't realize it. Even when Tanya was talking there about, she said something that I was going to come back to, and now I've just instantly forgotten it. But it reminded me of that, that if I sit down to think about it, even when you said, think about your visions and all of that, and I did start thinking, God, I wonder what are they? I wonder what visions do I have for this year? And I kind of wouldn't have a whole lot. I don't have a list. I don't have anything. Tanya sounded fabulous, and I thought, God, I don't think I have anything. But one thing I suppose I do have, and I've always had it really, and it would be my lifelong mission really, in that I would love to see that whatever it is that we carry as our truth and as part of the global or overall knowledge kind of thing, that can be, that there will be a world where that's more accepted and where we can speak it freely and clearly and it can be heard. I do think I feel a loss that can't be heard. And I think that I actually do experience it as that. And with the visions, you were talking about visions. I do have, I suppose that's a vision, but there's a huge aspiration with that and a huge feeling with that. There's an emotional connection to that. It's not just, the vision that I'd love to see that happening. It's much bigger and there is emotional attachment to it as well. And that's it. It sounds kind of simplistic, but for me, it's quite big. It's really big for me. So that's it.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned the body as the vehicle, and that's really, for me, it's motto. I call it motto. What's my motto for the next couple of weeks, months? My motto is really and I've started that last year, obviously, more than ever on a more intricate level, finding out the technology behind my biology. We've done so much work on the soul and everything, and we do know that our soul creates our body, as well. Now, why would my soul have created that body? How is my physicality, my biology useful to the level of my soul?
Yeah.
And in order to answer that question, I just need to learn more about the body beyond what we have heard, learned, studied, what that saying is. And there is so much more once we start getting into that. And for me, what I'm realizing the more, because, you know, for me, it's a cognitive just as much as a feeling that I have to combine, because I work with both hemispheres of my brain.
Yeah.
They need to work together. In my case, I can't just work at the one and not the other. So I need to understand certain things, how they work together. And then it's very easy for me to intuit. It's very easy for me to imagine. It's very easy for me to go on a journey, to time travel, once I realize what the capacities of my body actually are. And they are just tremendous. And that is our time travel vehicle. And we've said it a million times, as we know, it's a consciousness revolution, evolution, and the level of awareness is going to change, is going to help us to change our perception. But how do we change our perception? How do we heighten our levels of awareness? Through learning, through growth, through understanding more, bringing the mind, the heart, and the gut together. And, you know, it's like we're talking about the eyes that are seeing the blind spot behind the eyes, but we've got a third eye, right? We've got a fourth eye in our anus. We've got eyes in our palms. We have not made use of those consciously yet, even though we've talked about it at times. Well, hang on a second. How can we connect the eyes in our palms to the eye in the anus? I know it sounds weird. It sounds imaginative. But if we haven't done it, we don't know what it feels like, right? And also, you know, I'm a big fan, I've always been a big fan of seeking everything within myself. And when I say that, it's not just soul related. It is also energy related. It is astral body related, because spiritual embodiment means that we are bringing the astral body into our biology to make it more etheric, to make it more plasmic, to work with all the different toruses in all our different joints, right? Not just the chakras. And I'm not having a go at the chakras. I'm not a big fan of them. But apart from that, they have their purpose. And then I do question the limitation of them, but that's a different story, which I have to explore a bit more. But then again, you know, the thing is now, when I look, I just saw the other day, I saw a chakra chart, which gave, I don't know, the usual 7 chakras, right? And then the other chakras were way up there, you know, etheric, you know, and all of that. And I'm like, just the depiction of that doesn't really work for me anymore, because it's like, oh, I can't reach that up there because it's outside of me. No, I have to bring that within me now. And I have to project it, as we're a hologram, right? So I am projecting it into it, but into what? Yes, the heart, yes. But there's so much more to the heart, right? That we haven't explored yet. Yes, there's the higher heart. There's the causal part in the back there that connects to the front. And then there is the midbrain. And all of this needs to be connected. And all of a sudden, it's like, whoosh, okay. Talking about fortification through self-mastery, emotional mastery, like Mary, you said, you know, emotions. Yeah, you're not talking about the low frequency emotions. You talk about aspiration. Look at the word aspiration. We're talking about bliss, joy, you know, less is more. Work hard, work smart instead of hard. All of that. Emotions are there to make us passionate, to drive us forward, as long as we're not going down into the cesspool and work with fear and worry and control and all that kind of shit. So it's really about, and then there comes this level of fortification where you feel so fortified within yourself with that body, and you no longer worry about like Jennifer often says, you know, she just loves her body. Right? How many people can say that, right? And we're really starting to love our bodies, not for what they look like, but for who they are, for the purpose, for the contribution. Because without them, there is nothing. Nothing experiential in a tangible realm. Of course, there is everything else. Okay.
And Martina, you know, maybe as we, sorry, am I cutting across somebody
No,
there?
no, no, I'm done. I'm done. Jesus, you talk.
No, I thought there was somebody else talking. I don't know. I thought I
That's
heard
fine.
somebody in this. I was just thinking as you were talking that maybe as we get to more aware of all these different aspects, like the eyes and the palms and the anus and wherever, and you know how it works, that we will discover actually this was working all along in our unawareness. We just weren't connected to that and we weren't aware of how it was working. And that the bliss of finding that out and discovering, oh my God, this is what was happening. And I just didn't know. Because I think there is so much to learn about how we operate as a biology and emotionally and intellectually and all of that that we don't know. And going back to the film now that I was watching about the space mobile that used to go off in, you know, it was so symbolic really for me of the body and how the body gets powered up and what it was able to do and go out there and come back. But we're doing that without the car, without the mobile. We're doing it with the body, with the biology of the body. We're doing it already. And probably much more than we realize. And that's the exciting part for me, just to find out what it is we're doing. What am I doing? How does it work? You know, I find that fascinating actually. And it's to know where to look, because up until now we haven't really known where to look to find out that. We were aware that, yes, you know, we have the intuition and we have the insight and the foresight, and we began to learn a little bit about being able to travel through meditation and all of that. But there's more, and I think that's something that I'm looking forward to, just experiencing and finding out as we go forward. And I think we're getting there fast.
Yeah, and it requires a bit of work. Because you see, the other thing is, you know, like you said, we're going to find out so much more that we are capable of. Once we start looking into those blind spots, we're also going to find out that we have been implanted with much more than just emotions.
When you say it requires a bit of work, that's the piece that I sort of think, I know, I agree, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to work at that. That's the piece that I'm sort of at. It's just hard to know. I know you do the meditation and you do all of that, and we've done all of that, but I'm not sure how to work at the further exploration. It's like what's next and how do I discover that?
Yeah. Well, this is why I said earlier on, I think you I don't know if you were on already. I will bring Isa in at some
Yeah,
stage.
I heard you. Yeah, yes.
Good girl to start tapping into that.
That would be super, yeah.
And that's what I was going to say about the blind spots, right? Is we know what we know, and sometimes we can see what we can't see, but then we get to a point where maybe it's attachment to something that we want or a program that limits our belief in something, like that's my blind spot, because I know what I can see with my eyes and I know where my physical limitations are, and I can even use my intuition and use most of my other anyway, ways of perception, but then I still get to a block of like the furthest that I can see right now, which is probably my level of awareness. And it brought me back to like, I don't know, last year or the year before, Martina, you had us do this like edge of awareness exercise and to go up and like toe the line to the edge of our awareness. And that's where I see is like my blind spot. And in that moment, it brought me to the rugby field in Edinburgh. on a foggy day. And like I stood there and I could hear what was going on, but I couldn't see beyond that point. And so I look at that as being my blind spot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so as we're sharing blind spot, let me share my blind spot. My blind spot is really tangible. It's really an unknowingness how my technology really works, how my biology really works. I don't know enough. And it doesn't mean I have to become a medical intuitive, you know, and stuff like that. But there's certain things that I haven't heard yet, you know, and I am learning now. Now, I would liken that to one thing. Think about, you know, you're driving a car. Now, you want to drive a car that you can trust, right? You want to drive a car that you know there's petrol in it, that, you know, the engine works, the brakes work, and all of that. You don't need to know entirely everything, but you know, you want to know that what's there, you know? And then you sit in there and then you almost feel comfortable. How many of us just love driving because they trust the car? Yeah, isn't it? They just trust the car. You put the music on and you can imagine, you can intuit, you can just really let go. You don't have to control anything because you know the car, not to the most intimate levels, but you know it works because you had somebody check it who does know the intricate level, right? And this is the way I see it, because what I'm realizing within myself, I've always been super grounded. But what I'm realizing more and more is if the more I am comfortable knowing what this body can do, the less I need to interfere, you know, the more I can let go and just, you know, think of, I think, did I say this last time? It's like when I go in a funk or something and I'm like, oh, what is this? I just visualize all the Tauruses in my joints and in my heart and my higher heart and the tree of life that I've now expanded to 13 to 22 spheres and all of that, which I had no idea before, you know, and all of a sudden it's like, whoosh, my car is again fueled up. Let's go, just sit in it. So there's a groundedness to it. Not that I know what grounded is really, but you know, there's a tangibility to it. It's not mystical. It's not nothing. Everything else, because, you know, I don't know, I heard Bashar once said, you don't have to learn how to trust because that's innately, you trust. So if that trusting process, that self-trusting process is innate, meaning that it's natural to us, then we don't have to learn how to trust, but we have to create an environment for ourselves, for the soul, to be able to trust. And where does it start? Yes, house, home, city, blah, blah, people, body.
I mean, for me, this might sound like a very basic thing, but for me, that always starts with being kind and gentle to yourself. When you are kind and loving and gentle to you, then it allows a trust in your own awareness. Like when you're being hard on yourself, you know, whether it's about your body or something you didn't do, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. You know, I think when we meet ourselves where we are, then we can expand into that awareness in a way that is playful and trusting, and I think really relevant right now in our culture and in our lives. You know, when we're hard on ourselves, it negates the truth of who we are. So coming back to just that kind and gentleness, you know, how many times a day does one one have negative thoughts and feelings about themselves? I was working with one lady, came back for a second session, and she said she made check marks in a notebook over 300 times. You know, in one day, she was getting down on herself. So, you know, that's creating an energy of limitation, of of a can't, a shouldn't, a won't, you know, where we're judging ourselves harshly. You know, so when we let go of that, you know, every time stopping ourselves, I think then we're creating this space where we can play with what is and then expand upon that instead of limit what is.
Yeah. And I think a good point. Anyone? No?
Well, you wanted to make the point.
Yeah, I can make a point. Of course I can. Who else wants to make one? I chip in.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Oh shit, what's my point?
yeah, you lost it. Very good.
Yes, no, it's right
It
there.
was
Right.
a jumping one.
No, it's right there. So what you just said, Tanya, is so important. In addition to that, we need to realize how psychic we are. Because that, if we don't acknowledge our psychicness, then we don't acknowledge that we are antennas, that we are receivers, that we are picking up whatever is going on in the collective. And, you know, not even not necessarily just in this dimension, but in all the other dimensions, and even off-world, other universes, other galaxies, everything, because we're multidimensional beings, right?
And you just mentioned the seer. The first thing that came into my mind is, what does a seer do to see? He or she closes their eyes.
Yeah.
Because that is how you see. Right? I mean, it doesn't come for me as a surprise at all that when I had a psychedelics experience, what did I see? I didn't see anything. I sat in front of a big black hole. And that big black hole contains all the information I need to know. I just need to find out what it is. Or I befriended the darkness in that sense. It's not the darkness of, you know, of doom and gloom and all that, but I befriended the darkness. I even teach myself to see in the dark. And I, which is why I'm mad that we are completely polluted by light in, you know, in our modern world, because we are not even able to see anymore without some light, you know. But you are able to, you will. And it's something that you just need to train yourself to do. And one of the things that I learned as well, driving with the blind spot in the back, is when you are on a scooter in Hanoi through the traffic, it's like you are not worried about at all what is happening behind you. It doesn't matter. Just look in front, right? Whatever happens in the back, happens in the back. You might know what is happening, but you don't really want to, okay? It depends on it. I'm just, you know, this metaphor is just like, okay, sometimes you can have this tunnel vision, okay, fine. But sometimes it's also good not to actually, you know, worry too much, because intuitively you will just, you know, move forward to create something new, you know, something that is coming in front of you. So, which is one of the words that came up for me also in another discussion this week, where I was asked, how do I connect, through which mask in a metaphorical sense, am I connecting to, you know, spirituality? And for me, it was this word aspiration. Now, what is it that I'm aspiring to? That I don't know, because I know that I don't know that. It's just that the aspiration is there to continuously create my higher self, right? To which end, who knows? That is why I say that is what I don't know. I know that I don't know that, which is fine by me. And this uncertainty I am very comfortable with, because I love the exploration. Yesterday, funnily enough, I have 3 of my friends that are also they are world travelers, and they work for most of their careers in different countries, different cultures, and they made their career out of that. And all 3 of us, we are currently locked down in our country for health reasons. So yesterday I went to visit one of his friends, and we just talked about his father was also, it was in the clinic. He's well, everything's fine. His father was also in the room, and then he told his father, you see, this is why I can't talk to her, because we both love the uncertainty. We don't need to know what is happening. If you tell us tomorrow, I sent you to wherever on this world, and you are going to cook and you are going to manage, we're just going to go and do it, because we're like, okay, because we are not, the uncertainty of, will we have a job, will we find something, will we be able to, no, that doesn't even come into our minds. So it's very, it's interesting to be surrounded with these people. I'm very lucky in that, because the uncertainty doesn't come up. But then I had to walk out with his father, on the corridor, because the nurse came in to check on my friend. And then his father was like, are you not afraid to actually then lose your job also, because now you're long-term sick? And I'm like, no, not at all, because then there is something new that will come up, right? So it's working with this uncertainty. This is what I love to do. I'm not afraid of that. So I can understand people out there are of that. And like Tanya said, many people go also, down on themselves very harshly on things. But well, that is also not my personality. But the seeing and the intuition and the aspiration to get more into our body is something that I clearly can see it also in the ancient civilizations. And I just read another article where they found in one of the Paleolithic caves near Paris, actually, they found probably one of the first 3D maps in a cave that has been chiseled into the ground to reflect the landscape outside. And it even works with the water that is running through that landscape. So you could even pour water in there, and it's like a little model of the landscape that is outside. Why would they do that when we think of, cavemen? They were not cavemen. Yes, they worked with the technology they had at that moment, at their disposal, right? And so I'm very fascinated by all this, and they even were closer to their own technology and bodily functions than we were, because they were clearly able to see in the dark, because most of the caves have been painted in the dark because there is no soot on the ceilings where they painted most of the cave paintings, especially those very long ones, dark inside most of the caves, the longer ones. So yeah, absolutely fascinating. So the first thing that a seer does is she closes their eyes.
That's a very good point.
Better.
Absolutely. I think the difference is when we look at our evolution and when we look at the false matrix and the eradication of lots of our capacities, our physical capacities. As you say, we probably used to actually see much better in the dark, but now we don't, because we have implants in the crown, we have implants in the navel, we have implants in, God knows where else, and all of this in the solar plexus. But these are things that were created. This is not something that we have created through negative thinking or anything like that. We have to just acknowledge that we're living in a false matrix and that these things have been done to us. We have been implanted. And if you remember the days with Abby, we even had it in the book. Remember, Mary, when we talked about all the implants,
Yes.
in
Yes.
reproduction and all of that,
Yes, I did.
And having said that, this doesn't mean now that we sit back and say, well, shit, oh my God, we've been implanted by the aliens or by, the baddies, the dark state or anything. No, that does not mean that we can't change that. We can literally change that. Just like we have done the self-mastery journey by getting rid of negative emotions that we used to call negative, right? All that emotional turmoil. It's the same thing. Any implant can be eradicated.
I have a question on the false matrix. Do you have a glimpse of when it was installed?
Well, it goes back to the Atlantean times already.
Oh, okay, already that far back.
That's back all
Because
the way.
I'm currently listening to a very interesting, and I think I mentioned it already. It's from two investigative journalists in the 60s. It's called The Morning of the Magicians, and it talks a lot about and now I'm going to say the word, the real intentions behind the National Socialism and Hitler's endeavors. It was not Hitler. I mean, there were, others behind there for sure. He was just a puppet in a sense. The spokesperson.
Yes, he was Austrian. Thank you. I know.
No, yeah, I know. No, that's not where I wanted to go. He's actually Bavarian Austrian. You know where he was born. So
I know.
No, but what I want to point out is that because there are so many things that everything that we see and now is being documented on the war, let's put all that aside, but all the runnings in the back. And we're not talking about the conspirational theories. I'm really talking about the fact that they thought that they had the connection to create the superhuman and come back to being superhumans. Exactly what we are talking about, the fact that, you can be more than what you are through your physical abilities and raising those. And that was a lot of the endeavor that was behind. This is something that came out, and this book has been, buried because it has been put to blame, like it's nonsense and all that. But there are so many things in there that are like, and I'm listening to it while I'm driving the car, and I probably shouldn't, because every time I'm like, yeah, right. Why haven't we thought about that? It's 34 hours long. It's a long endeavor, but it's really, really interesting, especially listening to it today in the age where we actually would like, to open up more and more about the esotericism, and people are, let's put it, mainstream is coming a little bit more on board with it. And I'm actually wondering, what I'm not fearful, but all these people that are from the far right, do they actually know what they are talking about? Probably not at all, when they go and proclaim that they want to bring this back. Because I think that's really not something that they intend to bring back in the whole mysticism and spirituality, in a sense.
Yeah, no. But you're making a really good point here, because, why was he so powerful? Not him, but his entourage. Because there was a misunderstood, they had alien technology.
Yeah.
And that was a misunderstood thing. By thinking they had alien technology, they could now sort of change and bring that superhuman back. But that's not, and this is why it's interesting that you mention it, because, with us having this imminent sort of meeting and group,
right, this is where
this has nothing to do with technology the way it was perceived by them, by just shooting down, but it's still a consciousness, because remember, the thing is, our biology changes based on our consciousness, and this is how we are creating the changes. The consciousness is going to be elevated by having, contact with our interdimensional parts, because we will be learning more through them, which then elevates our levels of awareness, our levels of consciousness, which then it makes us alert of the implants, which then is an easy thing to just change an implant. It's not difficult, but if you have a blind spot that you have it, you can't change it because you don't even think about it. Yeah. So it's not that we're getting injected by the fucking aliens and shit like that. No, it's like our levels of awareness are going to be heightened, so we can get stuff like that. And, also to go back, some they say Atlantis, it was a progression, this fake, because, I think I heard Isa say it was even after the first cataclysm, that would have been what, million years ago. So it was a gradual deterioration of, you know, the capacities of humanity. Not in everything, of course, because there's other things that through the hybridization and everything that we have, you know, adapted and grown into as well. But it depends. You've got to be more specific what we are talking about, you know. But now we're talking about consciousness. We're talking about our awareness, and we're talking about amnesia. So that amnesia was a gradual process, so that we could remember less and less and less and less of who we were truly. And of course, this whole thing, there's nothing, as far as I'm concerned, there's no point to go on about this. I'm not even saying there's something wrong about this, because we have learned so much through those experiences. And that challenging time that we've been through, millions of lifetimes, thousands of lifetimes, have allowed us to become the teachers of the galaxy. Because there is no other species out there who have had that deterioration and now coming back into that self-empowerment, back into our psionic skills and everything.
I mean, I think too, there's theoretical perspective and practical perspective. Right. When you think about this whole group of people who are, you know, saying, oh, we're going to become superhumans. It's just going to happen. Like, where's the work? There has to be work, right? We have to, in order to keep those intuitive skills fresh, we have to continue to use them. You know, it's like working out a muscle. If you don't take a walk ever, you know, your leg muscles are going to atrophy. If you don't, you know, do some push-ups, you start to atrophy, and it happens quickly. And that can happen with our multidimensional sensory perspective as well. You know, when we're saying, oh, I'm going to wait for that person to tell me, I'm going to go through that person to get there. It goes through you, baby. You know, you don't have to go through a priest to get to God. You have a direct connection. You know, I mean, source, pure source, however you want to say that. But again, it is flexing those muscles, using those skills to continually expand them, right? We don't know what the full capabilities of the human body are. Martina, you were saying that was one of your blind spots, right? Not the unknowingness of what the body is capable of, right? Because that information has been covered and hidden and hidden and hidden, and then taken out of the DNA, right? In a way, the harmonic resonance in each of the DNA strands, you know, it like each of those strands lines up with the chakra system, lines up with the dimensional energies. And in unawareness, if we don't have an understanding of that, of the harmonics, the way that, you know, like think about a musical scale, right? You have on a piano, you have the low notes, and then you have the high notes, and all of those function within us, even the notes that we can't hear with our ears, that dogs can hear. So when we open up to that perspective of, okay, maybe my physical body can't hear this yet, but I have an intuitive understanding that something is happening. Like when someone blows a dog whistle, right? Dogs hear it in a totally different way than we do, but our body responds to it. We can intuit that sound is there. It's like the ultraviolet light spectrum. You know, there's a very small part of the spectrum that our eyes see, but we intuit that there's a depth and a breadth of energetic that is there that maybe our eyes can't see, but our other senses pick that up, right? But those are, you know, those are skills that need continual work.
Yeah. And you know, you're not alone in this. We're not alone in this. When you say everything is within, you can still dissect this slightly and say, hey, I've got so many soul shards, right? That are me, that are working with me in the past, in the present, in the future. And then, there comes the tribe. We've come in with soul family to help each other out. What do you think we are here? We are soul family. We're having these weekly discussions to inspire each other, right? To do that inner work and to trust ourselves.
Well, and
And
why did each of us incarnate into the lineage that we did? Like,
exactly.
why are we here in the bodies that we are, right? To, learn more from that perspective, but also assemble the DNA strands in energetic ways that a different lineage wouldn't give us the capability to do. When we bunny hop through those past lifetimes, like, what were you learning? What were you gathering in those lifetimes that are serving you now? And then what are those how are those future selves adding to the mix?
Exactly. And one day we'll be like Jennifer, we'll be, driving a spaceship. Tell us about your dream, please. She had a dream about a spaceship. You need to unmute.
Yeah, I had a dream last night that myself and somebody I was traveling with, we were test driving spaceships. One of them was green, one of them was black. And then the green one, like where we went through it, like it could go through the folds of space and time. And so like when it did that, it wasn't like you see in Star Wars where like there are all those white streaks of the stars going by. It went through rainbow colors. So it was a very peaceful, fun, exploratory dream. That was the energy of the dream.
Fantastic.
But it is a lot like a body, just like you were describing earlier, Martina, just like test driving a car. Like that is what we do with these bodies, and we have yet to discover all the extra upgrades we've made and the bells and whistles. We just have to find the right YouTube video to watch. I was laughing at myself the other day because somebody was remarking on how strange the gear shift was in my work vehicle. And that one I was able to figure out without YouTubing it. But when I went to drop my car off to get serviced, and like I have a Lexus, so the dealership gave me like one of their newer vehicles to drive during the day. I had absolutely no idea how to put that car in reverse, and I had to YouTube it, and I felt ancient and foolish that I couldn't figure out how to operate the vehicle. But sometimes we do have to look for new information elsewhere.
Actually, last night, my dream, it was again one of those sorting dreams. I was presented by entities, the meteorological instruments that I needed to sort. So maybe these were used to, plan your flight plan. I have no idea.
Maybe.
But that was very weird. And I had to read the manual of my new book to find where do I open the cover of the, to put, it's a hybrid, but it's with the gasoline, to put the gasoline in, because I couldn't find it. I was sitting in the car. I didn't see it. I have no idea what it was. I had to look in the bloody manual. And do you think that I found it in the manual? It took me 15 minutes to find the word for it.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't read manuals.
And then I'm like,
I don't read manuals. I don't have the patience for this shit. I just call Paul. Paul, where the fuck is that lever?
I could have probably just called the dealer, because he said, if you have any problem, just call me. I'm like, I'm not going to call him for that. I'm going to find out. The bloody thing is just underneath my left foot on the bottom of my seat. You need to push the lever there.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's so weird. What does it do there? I agree. I do remember that. Yeah.
What is it doing there? I mean, come on.
Hey, listen to this conversation. This is the same with our bodies, right? What does it do there? What has that got to do with my coccyx? That's my eighth chakra to do with my coccyx. I don't get it, right? And that's the thing. And you know, here, at least we can change a car if we don't want it. But in this particular lifetime, if we want to carry on, so we can't change the body. We need to find out, okay, so maybe I have to, well, that's what I'm doing, right? I'm reading the instruction manual, the non-existing instruction manual, you know.
And then unfortunately, you're getting, sometimes you need to find the right specialist to actually, who knows how to service you, because
Oh, tell me about
most of them are not like, Japanese or. I always remember my dad always said that always buy a Japanese car because everybody can just fix them because they are easy to fix.
Well, that's the thing with cars now, isn't it? Right? Equipment, it's not made for fixing. It's made for
not nowadays anymore.
It isn't, right? Yeah.
I was having a conversation the other day with my friend Cynthia and our hairdresser Shannon, who's a very like multi-dimensional galactic person. She's come from a Native American lineage and was raised in an area that there was a lot of ET interference. And so she has a lot of like implants that are now deactivated, but she was having this experience that there was like a being sort of like anytime she tried to mess with any of these implants, this being would sort of come and energy attack her. And it was like the operations manager for these implants. And as we were talking, what I was seeing is there's almost like this computer that was controlling all of these things. And it was a codex that was running a code saying, okay, I'm pinging these implants to make sure they're here because you have to hold these implants in you, right? And what I was seeing is that when any of those implants when she was trying to take them out, anyone's trying to take them out, that they would get right back installed because this operations manager was like overseeing this energetic. And so what I saw is that she had to rewrite the codex, right? That you couldn't go ahead and remove one of those implants because it was a full system operational thing. And when one of those pieces was gone, it wasn't working and there was an alert that happened. So what I was seeing was that you can rewrite that codex, that they all just fall out, that you don't need them anymore. And then it sort of like neutralizes
Absolutely.
everything.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the computer and that's the simulation is based on algorithms. That's exactly it, that codec, those algorithms. And we need to change the algorithm and
Exactly.
change back to the primordial matrix algorithms. Now, how do we do this? There are certain people out there who are looking into this, which we can, obviously learn from or talk to. But just the level of awareness, just what you just said, exactly that. You don't have to call it algorithms, but you can literally decide to become an algorithm interrupt with your body. Just by purely saying, look, I'm not doing this. I'm not buying into this. There is no right, no wrong. There is none of that. From a sacred neutral perspective, I do no longer allow myself to be coded through that particular algorithm. And then that is connected to the unpredictability. As a walk-in, part of as a walk-in, you need to almost, I was told at the time, that's what I did. And I'm starting to realize more and more that that's what I'm actually doing. You have to outcreate the system. You have to become invisible to the system. In order for the soul to walk in, I had to outcreate the system because I was at the time found that they wanted to eliminate me. So I had to have that soul exchange and come in behind the scenes to outcreate that system. Now, how can we do this? I obviously can't remember how I did that at the time. But if I look at my life now, I'm certainly not a predictable person. I don't feel that. And if you look at my paintings, I am a wild card because every painting is pretty much different. That in itself, or I wear different things. I wear different, you know, I eat different things. I go to places and then I don't go. I have come, okay, so let me say that's maybe a good thing. I have come to realize that repetition is not illumination. There's this big thing that people often say, repetition, it leads to illumination. And if you do something 80 times, 8 for 80 days, then that's what it is. I think that's utter fucking crap, really. I think it's, if you have an awareness and you are resonating with an awareness, you can do this like that. Things are changing like that. Repetition just makes you predictable. That's what helps the algorithm. And you see this on a daily basis, you know, whatever you put into the search engine, you are bombarded with exactly that. Now, our good friend Dave, what has he done for a year now, over a year? He's posting, he said, I'm done with those algorithms. I don't want to, you know, I am now telling them what I want to see. And he's just posting art, you know, art. And because that's what he wants to see. So he's sort of controlling the algorithms by choosing what he is searching for and what he is posting. And that's taking responsibility for his reality. But it's really becoming unpredictable. Now, how do we become unpredictable? When we feel happy in the self-trust process, right? When we no longer need familiarity, because familiarity breeds content at the end of the day. When we no longer seek out comfort, when we're okay with the uncertainty, with the unpredictability, with all of that, that's when the system can no longer track us through their algorithms. And I have no idea why we started it. Yeah, because we talked about changing. So when we're changing something, this is just a level of awareness to start off with. And then you take it from there, and then you become it. And there is one side that comes with it, that you might not be seen as much as and that's what I've been seeing, because I've been sort of deactivating certain, I don't know, techniques within myself, tech items within myself. There is a level of, you're not necessarily seen, because, you know, they are, as they're using the algorithms and you're no longer playing, you're working underneath all of it. And that's just something you must be happy with. So you can't have an ego if you want to play this game.
When you detach from the system, you're not seen by the system or anyone running in the system.
Exactly. And then you also can't come up there, oh, you are getting a Golden Globe or an Oscar or this or that. And that's something to be aware of too. Are we happy with that? You know, like somebody was saying to me the other day, I still do yoga once a week for 2 people, and I charge £11, which is ridiculous, right? I do it on via Skype. Right? And the other day, the cleaner said she wanted more money because, you know, in this area, and la la la, and I thought, okay. So there was this subliminal manipulation. She said, oh, I want that amount because in your area, it's actually much higher. And I'm like, sorry, I can't do that. If you want more money, then ask me for more money, right? Don't ask me for something and then tell me subliminally, try to manipulate me, tell me in your area is actually, I should get in much more. Well, no, you asked me for that, so that's what you're getting, right? And then I'm having this conversation with Emma, and she's like, no. And I said, I only charge £11. We said, yeah, that's your choice. You're idiotic. You should pay, you know, charge 25. And I said, yeah. but I'm not buying into the system. So I have to make my choices on that basis sometimes too. I can't say, oh, I'm not getting enough money. No, because that's what I'm choosing. Because you see, this is just an example now, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, it comes with, and that doesn't mean that you can't make any money or that you can't be out there seen or whatever, but it's a different what. Just, you said it so beautifully and so simply, Tanya. You can't be, what did you say? Repeat, please.
If you're not in the system, if you decreated the algorithm to be in the system, then you're not seen by the system, but nor are you seen by anyone running in the system.
Exactly.
So in order to be seen by people not running in that, you know, what do you call it? The dark matrix, or, you know, the algorithm system. I don't know. How do you do it? There has to be ways, you know, that you can like create an unexpected pop-in that ripples through and resonates, right? Or that when those people are ready for the energetic signature frequency that you're holding, which is outside of that, when they're ready to move outside of that, then that's when they find you.
Yeah.
You know, and they find you when they're ready.
And,
You know, I had one lady I worked with last week who said, I've had your website like open for 9 months. And she'd finally just like booked a session. Like she wasn't ready. Right. Even though like the energetic signature was there, she was drawn to it, but she wasn't ready to jump in.
The algorithm gets replaced by resonance.
But this is what happened when I said, this is what happened. So today, I opened the application. It's called Yoga Lab from Michael Beaker, the one where I did my my breathwork instructor course. And I opened the app because I wanted to do a session. And I look, the app is rather simplistic, so you have to scroll through the courses that you did already, and then you can click on the course where, you know, have a meditation or breathwork session or whatever. So I saw that in the courses that most of them I have completed, that some actually indicated that 97 out of 99 lessons completed. And I'm like, I did all those lessons in that course, you know? And I open up the course and I look again, what was the session that I maybe did not make. But I know exactly that I did all of them because I have the certificate, right, that I completed the course. And it was a meditation session. But I did that one. Okay, whatever. So I clicked completed. And then I noticed that in other lessons, then in other courses, also there were 1 or 2 lessons that I hadn't completed. I'm like, this is weird. And then I just clicked on them again and I completed, you know, just tagged them as being completed. And I was like, this is weird. And I scroll further down and then suddenly I see a meditation course to actually, you know, to become a meditation teacher. And I'm like, this is new. This hasn't been on here yet. And I'm like, this is weird. Why have I not seen that yet? Then I go on the website and there also, it was kind of hidden, you know. And he's currently, for the new beginning, he's talking about his instructor, you know, the breathwork course and all of that. But he doesn't talk about that course, the meditation course, to actually become a certified meditator. You know, you get the yoga certificate. What is that? The credits? What have you not? And I'm like, funny enough, you know, so there is something there that made that some of my lessons were not completed, although I know exactly that I completed them because I have the completion certificate. So that I got aware of that, so that I went on chasing further down and found the meditation course to become a certified meditation, you know, an instructor. And what did I do? Yes, sure, I applied because I really love his type of, you know, of course, how he does it and how gentle he is. So I'm like, why hasn't he talked about that? You know, this is so weird.
They got you good there.
I know.
Unticked because they needed more people on their meditation courses. They unticked.
Like, you know,
and then
it's so weird.
Meditation came up. Okay, done. We got her.
Well, if you maybe also if you went back to revisit it, but only watched like part of it, then it might show as not completed.
Mm-mm. Because when you're in the course, you have to complete the lessons to actually get the next one.
Guys, there's so much crap out there, you know, but that's okay. Sometimes I love the algorithms, the stuff that brings in, because I would have never thought it myself. You know, since I've started searching Antarctica, I'm getting all these lovely documentaries in about Antarctica. So, you know, this is the thing. We've got to use the false matrix for to our benefits, right? That's the whole point. And then start fading it out back into the primordial one. Exactly, right? And that's what we're here for.
Deconstructing old programs, rewriting new programs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I remember, you know, back in 2000, after I had this like impetus to search for the Mayan calendar for some reason. And it led me down a rabbit hole that sparked another level of awakening and awareness. And now, you know, 25 years later, you know, here I am with still learning. There's always learning. There's always more awareness. You know, we're never done with that. We're continually becoming more aware. We're continually opening up to new concepts and ideas. You know, we're never stagnant.
No.
And so sometimes some of that repetition can bring that comfort and stagnancy. So getting out of that comfort zone, you know, learning something new. There's this toy I love called the Bop It, which it's a multi-sensory device where it tells you to do something and you have to do it, or it makes a sound and you have to do it, and it gets faster and faster and faster. And it creates neuroplasticity, neural pathways, new neural pathways, working with something new like that. You know, and it's not easy at first. You know, maybe you can only get like 2 and the thing goes up to 100. And then pretty soon you're doing the whole thing and then you're done with it. Maybe you pick it up later, right? When you're trying to learn something else, something new.
And you just beautifully described, you know, the different energy in the timelines. Yeah, you see the familiarity, you can get stuck there because it's quite dense there, it's solidified, it's that woven tapestry, right? But then once we move into more the suspended timelines, the future timelines, there is more the fluidity, but also there's the speed that you mentioned there, you know, the speed of learning and everything. So and Sandrine mentioned that early on as well. She feels much more comfortable in the fluidity where everything is open, in the uncertainty and everything. So when it's interesting to look at that, you know, if you want to work with your future selves, you learn something new, you learn from yourself or, you know, with yourself or from others, you know, like that, then you go into that more into that fluid space, but it's faster there, you know. And there's not much structure there. There is not a system there because we are here to create that system, right? But then when you feel like, oh, this is so heavy, well, then you know you're in the past. You're stuck in the other timelines, and just get out, right? You can dissect that. And of course, we know the past, the present, future it's all happening at the same time. So it's that spiral, that sphere. But sometimes it's useful to just, you know, dissect it, spread it out so that you can have a better perception, a better feeling what's going on. Or we talked about how did we walk into this whole thing, Lana. We talked about imagination. We talked about intention today, you know. So if you have an intention of creating something new, in seeding the future in the present moment now, then you got to be more flexible. You got to be faster. You got to be open. You got to be happy with that uncertainty because you're here supposedly creating. So you want comfort, that's fine too. One day you're uncomfortable, go back and just do that. But then don't expect much to happen there, right? Necessarily.
Well, I think too that we can't really go back. I mean, we can review what was and integrate, the lessons, and we can, sometimes learn lessons when we reflect on the past. But I was talking to someone who'd done a lot of writing, a lot of journaling, bringing forth information. And it was like that energy was so heavy for that person of having to create something actionable from all of this past journaling that it was weighing them down, right? Keeping them uh, stagnated in that past energy and information, right? Rather than, okay, yeah, maybe you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but maybe there's one sentence from each of those 40 notebooks that's relevant now. And so how can you, it's like decluttering. It's like decluttering, cleaning out your closet. What clothes haven't you worn in 5 years, 1 year, 6 months? Can you get rid of that? Do you want to get rid of that? What is the energy around it? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel light? Like, how can you use that to create something new?
And ask your body what it wants. I've had an interesting, I don't know if I told you this, I mean, it's nothing too revolutionary, but I've been drinking this oat milk with my coffee. I think I mentioned it, right? For a year, everyone told me it's too much sugar and this and that, and I didn't care. And then make myself a coffee one morning. I haven't even thought about how bad or good it is. Make a taste. I'm like, oh God, it's disgusting. What is this? Throw it out. And since then, I haven't had the oat milk. So that was no repetition leading to elimination or, me trying or forcing myself or judging myself. It was just one day to the next. Body said, nope, don't want that anymore.
My
Okay.
body did that with my protein shake mix. Like, I just haven't been feeling good the last couple of months, and I always feel good. And so I was doing a process of elimination for what that may be, and I kept being brought back to like my shake mix. But we're supposed to get all this protein, right? But my body doesn't really like to digest protein that much. So I cut that out. Next day, feel great. Just went back to eating fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So I found that with lots of people around me right now that their bodies just all of a sudden demanded something different.
Absolutely. So we have to listen. And, we have to get off this idea a habit is formed from doing it over and over again. And so we have to undo it over and over again because we're no longer working with habits or belief systems. We're working with choice and awareness. Awareness is change.
Yeah.
I can't apply that necessarily because my awareness would have been, yeah, don't drink it, but I still did. It was just my body saying one day, the trust, that is that self-trust process. Body will tell you, not wearing this anymore, not doing this anymore. I mean, my body's been telling me not doing sessions anymore, not doing therapy anymore. And I'm like, no, we have to. I just printed 1,000 business cards. But I said, no, I don't care. How many business cards have I thrown into the bin? I don't know. I just printed another 100 for my show now, so I hope I'll be painting a little bit longer to get rid of those 100 business.
I'm really excited for you that you're having that show,
Thank
Martina.
you. Thank you.
For anyone listening, why don't you tell us what it is, like where it is, when it is?
Yes. I'm going to be dropping off 2 of my paintings tomorrow. It is it's called the boomergallery.com. I've posted it anyway twice now, so I don't want to over flood everything. But and we're having the opening on Friday from 6 to 9 o'clock. And I'm super excited. An amazing gallery. They do everything. I don't have to hang up my picture. I don't think so, at least. None of that has been said. There'll be my name. There will be the title. They even brokered a deal if somebody wants to buy it without commission. The entry fee was £170, which was hardly anything. I've seen that they do this monthly. with different subtitles, different what do you call it, themes. So this theme for this one is what is art, which works perfectly for my stuff because it's spacious enough for me, you know. Emma has done this for Christmas. She entered those three paintings, and the third one, luckily they didn't choose that because it was a new canvas and it started to bend in the back, so I couldn't have used that anyhow. Unfortunately, it's two of my biggest paintings, so I'll have to take a taxi. Anyways, too much blah blah. So it's going on. It's going on from the 10th to the 15th, and the gallery is close to London Bridge, which is very dear to my heart because it's close to Tower Bridge as well, so southeast. And it will be open from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, the following days until the 15th. And then we'll take it from there and we see, and it'll just be fun, you know. Thank you.
Amazing. Great work.
I nearly would have done the folly to take a flight in the morning to come and be there, but it's in the evening, so I can't.
It's not worth it, darling, but I love you for it. No. Some people said that, but I was like, no. Once I have my own gallery, then you come.
Well, then we have to, because then we need to, you have to hang up
You need to bring your stuff.
I mean, come on.
Your community. Yeah, if that happens. But hey ho, you never know. But that's an energy. And the one thing I have to say, why I'm really, really so curious and enjoying this, because you guys know the journey. I've only started painting in June, and I've never planned that. I had never had a goal. I never had an aspiration, never had anything, but I've always enjoyed the creative stuff, right? And this happening now has been just such a beautiful, synchronistic, event. And I am not attached to anything. If I have to drag them back on the 16th, then I will be doing that too, because those are the two that I actually had hanging in the house. So and if somebody wants to buy them, then I'll be super happy. And if something comes of it, it's just nice to be in a community of creative people. And I'm more interested in seeing what they have, what they've been painting, and maybe make some new friends or some new people who resonate and maybe even come onto our show or something. So yeah. Thanks.
Well, I think this is a really great example too of working with the intangible. Right. So the way that you've been naming your paintings, the way that you're, working with the paint, right? It's like, how many words, here's the old idiom, right? The painting is worth 1,000 words. How many words does it take to explain what the energetic of that painting is? Right. And bye, Mary. Nice to see you.
Bye.
Happy
Sorry.
2025.
Okay. See you next week. Bye, everyone. Sorry, I have to go.
No worries. Bye.
No worries. Bye-bye.
So how many words would it take you to describe what you were feeling, what you were intuiting, what you were seeing, what you were hearing, how you were perceiving that expansive concept that all of a sudden is now on the page, in the paint, right? And how many of your senses, right? You've talked about working with these past, present, and future parts of you that are also painting with you, right? So I just want to bring that all together and talk about all of the little things that we do with our whole energy field, right? Whether you're painting or whether you're making food or, whether you're creating your garden or whether you're cleaning your house. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but you're doing it with all of these sensual parts of yourself, right? And bringing things together. I mean, we're never just thinking about exactly what we're doing. We're thinking about all of these different things and concepts. Think about, like, as I'm cooking or making food, we had a rib roast for New Year's Eve, and my neighbor came over, and I was making horseradish cream. And I had whipped the cream, and I was stirring in the horseradish and stirring in the horseradish. And my neighbor said, "Hey, Tanya, do you think you're done stirring that horseradish?" And I was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not. And I stirred it, and I stirred it, and I stirred it till it was done. And he said, as he was eating it, "You really nailed the horseradish." I'm like, yeah, because it wasn't, you know, it had to be baked for a certain amount of time until it was done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So think about all of
So-
those things that all of us are doing each day that are bringing in, right, the thoughts, the multidimensional thought patterns, and how we're, you know, working with clearing the DNA, and how we're bringing together these parts of our energy field into this thing that we're creating.
Yeah.
That's alchemy right there.
Absolutely. And that's actually the conscious part of my paintings. Call myself a conscious artist because I thought, you know, I gotta say something. And I thought, why do I say conscious artist? Because I'm literally not conscious when I'm not, okay, that's the wrong way. I'm not thinking when I paint. I want to go so far to say I'm not even feeling. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm allowing myself to work with the left side of the brain when I'm painting, but there is an active guiding part that was really done in the beginning that was very left-brained, because when I started hearing all these voices, all these shards and parts talking to me, I thought, no, I can't have that. And I said that before. I had to really rein them in. And that's done now. So now I've set the context. This is, you know, and sometimes a shard disappears because I had enough and another one comes in. I'm conscious of who is co-creating with me at the time, but I don't know what we are creating. And that's the beauty for me, because I got the best of both. It's a bit like, I know I've got the contribution and I am giving the opportunity to those shards that are not on this timeline necessarily. I give them a voice, or I give them an opening, because they bringing that contribution in. And the more I do this, they're obviously coming onto this timeline and they're getting integrated with me, and then I become that. And that integration process that has taken place, I don't need 6 different canvases anymore and then allow every shard to have their own canvas, because that's how I started off. I don't need that anymore. So that competition and that hierarchy and all of that, that's been eliminated. But I still have this process of not knowing what I'm doing when I'm doing it.
Well, and each person who views
What I'm
that is going to get something else out of it.
Absolutely. I do have that, and that's why I always write something with it, because the painting afterwards says to me, okay, so now tell me. It needs, well, that's just what I want to do. And then when other people say, no, this is this, and then that's absolutely fine too. But it's almost like I identified afterwards, because that's just fun for me. And then it's even more fun when other people come up with completely different things. You know, it's like, oh, that's a bird. No, Emma says, no, that's a cat. I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, it is a cat. Like, what?
You know, the fun we had when we were rearranging your paintings, you know, the triptych series, you call it the end of the world, and I just moved it around, and I was like, it's the apocalypse thingy. You know, you were turning it this way around, I was turning it the other way around.
No, turning this. I'm like, really? Totally abstract. Anyway, it didn't really matter. But I had to put it back. It didn't work for me the way you put it. It's so
No,
weird
I know
how these things work, and it's literally not me. There's something saying no. It's again, Jennifer, or you, Sandrine, you're painting now too. You will know when the painting is ready, right?
Oh, I mean,
There's no ways you can stop painting until you get the now it's done.
Yeah, it something inside. I mean, Jen can also probably confirm to that. You know, something inside you just says, no, we're done. It's okay.
Yeah.
Just leave it.
Then you
You know. And then even if you look at it later on, you're like, I still want to correct that little thingy there, and it goes, nope, because it needs to stay the way it is. So with my triads that I'm painting there, you know, where I'm just randomly choosing the colors, I'm painting them in the evening, just, you know, letting it out. And then when I'm posting them, that is not, you know, I took the pictures at one stage. I have many more currently already done. And then, you know, when I sit there and I want to do the post, I just choose the next one in line of what I took a picture of. And then I come up with and then the text comes with it. Sometimes it has nothing to do with my state of consciousness that I had at the moment when I was painting them. And then when I'm posting them, you know, because I actually find it very funny that at that moment, I find the words to actually add to that, you know, what I was painting. Sometimes there is something in there that there was a word that came up anyways. You know, I have one that I think I haven't posted it yet. For me, it looks like the Three Marias, you know. That's the first thing that it told me, you know, we are the Three Marias. I'm like, okay, good for you. Nice to meet you.
It's also, sometimes you want to say something, and then I find the painting for it. Because I had already painted it. But that is something that happens a lot in my life. Look out for that, because that's quite interesting as well. Because when we talk about manifestation, you're one of those people who beats themselves up for not manifesting, actualizing things. Well, look again. So many things that I am doing or understanding now, I have, and I see it with my jewelry. There's so many things that I have found, or things that have found me, because I'm going to all these markets and everything, and I just buy them because it costs nothing or very little. And then years later, I realize why I had to manifest that into my life. It was telling me about something that years later I've just done the winged ices knot with Isa on one of the activations, and I had never heard of that. And I'm like, when we talked about the wings of Isis, and I'm like, hang on a second, I got the earrings, you know, winged ices. I'm not even doing Egypt, right? I got a bracelet, winged ices. I'm like, what the hell? You know, all these things have been with me just to remind me, hey, you haven't acknowledged that, you haven't acknowledged that, you haven't acknowledged that, you haven't acknowledged that. So sometimes it's not that you are not manifesting things, you've already manifested it, but you just haven't acknowledged that that was part of what you needed to manifest because of what is within you. So time runs backwards. Remember that.
It doesn't run at all.
Right through the blind spot.
Right through the fucking blind spot, absolutely. And that's it's like one of the questions, what have I not acknowledged? That if I'd acknowledged that now, would take away the need to create something, because you've already created it. It might not look the way you thought it's going to look like,
Well,
but
it never does.
the energy is already in your life. And then you're chasing it, you're chasing it, you're chasing it. In reality, you're sitting on it. Or you got it in your cupboard. And I'm like, okay, interesting. And then how does all of that, because everything is a manifestation of soul, and how is it related to the soul, but also how is it related to the body? That's the thing I'm seeing with, especially with the jewelry, because of the symbolism. It is now sacred geometry, which is part of obviously our physicality, or, you know, names of certain parts of the body, you know, and things like that. So yeah, so this is the year of awareness, really.
Hmm.
The year of awareness and the year of acknowledging and, you know, working with our future selves. And with the past.
Dreaming into the future.
Bringing in the future, actualizing the future, or seeding it for other generations, because this is what we do, right? We've come here, we are all visionaries, right? We're all seeders. And that's what it takes, creating a new matrix, or, you know, clearing the old one, going back to the other one. But even the primordial one is primordial, right? So that needs updating as well. What?
All of us are
Well, the
adding to that.
primordial actually probably would like to remain what it is, pure. I had this little thing going on. I bought a little cupboard to put it in the living room so I can put away my knitting stuff, you know, so that it's not, you know, overflowing on the sofas. And the top, now for Christmas there was a candle on it with, you know, a little bit of decoration. But I was so happy when that candle was gone, because I was like, I need this one to be clear. Yesterday, after the rearrangement, there were little thingies put on there, and I'm like, you know me, I love vintage stuff. I have the same as you, right? But I haven't found the thing yet that wants to be on that. It needs to be, you know, it needs to tell me that it wants to sit on there, right? And there is nothing yet that has come forward. So when I saw these little thingies that were sitting there that were not mine, my whole system was like, and I'm like, no, I'm very sorry. Can we just keep this clear for the moment, please, until I find something to put on there? Thank you.
Oh, that's called control freak. No, sorry.
Me? Yeah, I know, especially when it's my stuff.
No, I'm totally with that. There's a meme actually I saw on Instagram or something, going shopping with your husband, and he's trying to make an you know, a contribution to the style, and she doesn't even look at it. And she just throws it away like that.
That's me and my mom going shopping.
Is it? Okay. Okay. Fantastic, girls. So
Great. Well, a lot of energy. A lot of
energy. Well, we are
created
back
today to ripple forward in time.
Absolutely. Now, next week, I'm not going to be around, most probably. So if anyone fancies to run it,
I'm going to be traveling, so
you'll be traveling as well. So if I'm back at 5, then we'll do it. And if not, then we'll might have to miss it. And then at some stage, as I said early on, I'll get Isane, and we have a lovely discussion about the heart. Would you like that?
Absolutely.
I'll be in a conference next Wednesday, so I'll also be gone next Wednesday.
Okay. Well, so next Wednesday, my course starts again as well. So you know. Okay.
Well, then let's scratch it, and we do the week after. So 5th is the 5th. Anyway.
No, it's later.
Okay, good. All right, girls. Mwah. Love you all, and wish me luck.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah. Post pictures. Also,
I will. I'll flood the system, the algorithms. All right, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
For popping in at the late stage. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Oh, I'll put the recording out. Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.